All right, folks. So this video is going to show you how to create the key tag or the name tag. I may use those names interchangeably. I've got a whole bunch of them here that are in the classroom. This is about the size of the sort of thing that you're creating. So this could be something that goes on a zipper, on a keychain. It will have your initials. This was from some past student. These are my initials. A lot of these are my own or things that say CPPHS. This is one that says, "It do be hittin' diff dough," that a student made last year, I think. So pretty much the sky is the limit on these. This is just a basic way of doing it, but really you can make the shape anything you want as long as it more or less fits within these dimensions that I have given you, as long as it is not really more than 3 millimeters tall, 20 millimeters tall this way, or 20 millimeters deep, and 50 millimeters wide. So it is kind of up to you where you want to go with this, but this tutorial will show you the bare basics, and you can change the shapes as you see fit to add different parts to them. So this is a 3D model of this test one that generated this drawing that I'm providing to you, but we will talk about some different parts of this as we go. So let me get this set up here. So if you remember before, to create a new document, so basically I'm gonna go through this step by step. There's one last thing let me show here. I do have some suggested tips here. Okay, some suggested steps. You should start by sketching and extruding a rectangular base. Then sketch and extrude, but use the remove option, a hole. Okay, so basically you'll make the base shape, then add a hole, then sketch and extrude the text, and then finally round off, we call that fillet, the corners. So that's what you're going to see how to do in this, is you're going to get a recap of how to sketch and extrude some stuff. You'll see how to add some text, and you will see how to round off the corners of some things. So if we switch back here, we might remember that to create a new document, in Onshape, let me combine these again. There we go. To create a new document in Onshape, we go to this blue Create button, say Document. I'm going to call this one Osgood name tag, and I'm going to put video after it, just so I know, because I have about 1 million documents here. You can see now that I've created for these. So that's going to load for a second. Again, we want to make sure our units are in millimeters, unless you choose to work in a different unit. Mine already are, but you may want to check again. And I have another video out in Google Classroom if you need to know about that. So our first step here, if we take a look at the drawing, like I said, is to sketch and extrude the rectangular base. So we create a new sketch by either selecting the plane first and then clicking sketch, or clicking sketch. I'm going to click the button first. So I want to create a sketch, and I want to create it on, let's do it on the front plane. And what we're going to do now is we are going to create a rectangle starting on the origin. So this is very similar to the exercise that we did when we were in class. I simply select, let me do that again, select the rectangle tool, click on the origin, one click, just one click to start it, and then a second click, so there's really 2 clicks there to create the whole rectangle. You do not click and drag. You click once on the origin and then once on the second corner. And then we're going to dimension this. So let's take a look at the drawing for the dimensions. We see the, we could call it the height of this object is going to be 20, and the width is going to be 50, and these are all in millimeters. So I'll find my dimension tool here, which is right here. And I mentioned this, I think, in all the classes so far. If you click in the search tools box and just type dimension, it's going to pop right up, and you can hit enter, and it will go right into dimension mode. That button got pushed when I did that. So I'm going to click on this point. So you click once to pick the line that you're setting the length of, and then you move your mouse away and you click a second time to stamp that down. So you might see that as a theme here. We click once to start something, and again usually to finish it, or sometimes multiple times to finish it. So I said that the overall width of this would be 50. So I typed 50 and hit enter. And then I can dimension this other line by clicking once, moving it away, and making that 20. Wow, I got that pretty close. If instead we wanted to pick the 2 points of that line, we could do that with the dimension tool as well. So there's another way to add dimensions. That's what I'm going to show here. I just undid that to make it go away. I did Control Z until it went away. I'm going to click dimension tool, and instead of clicking on the line, I'm going to click on the top and the bottom. So this is another possible option for you to dimension from one point to another. And in this case, there's 3 clicks. You're not just clicking the line. You're clicking the top, the bottom, and then clicking again to stamp out here. So we'll set that. So those are the 2 ways to dimension. You can either click directly on the line, or you can click on the 2 endpoints. There are times where you don't just have a line that you can click on. You might have a curve, but you want to go from one point to another. So it's really useful to know that. Now we have the basic shape of this created. So I'm going to accept my sketch by clicking the green check mark. And now I'm going to extrude this. So I'm going to click the extrude button to open that on up. And I am going to hover until my sketch region lights up here. Bam. And now that is way too big of a depth for this. So we're going to look over here. It looks like the depth I want here is 3 millimeters. So I'm just going to type that right in the box. 3, enter. Bam, gets a little thinner. Click the green check mark to accept that. And we have our very most basic shape created. So the next step, if we look here, the next suggested sketch step is to sketch and extrude, in parentheses, remove, the hole. So to do that, we are going to go here. We're going to click sketch. And this time, instead of picking one of the planes, we are going to use the face of this object. So it's asking for a plane. There's really a secret plane on every flat surface in Onshape. So I'm going to click on the front of that when the edges of it lit up, as you can see there. And it creates a sketch. And if I rotate this, you're going to see, right there, that sketch got created right on the front face of that. So let me right click. Let me go over here and reset the view. So on this sketch, I'm going to make a circle. We haven't learned about this tool so much yet, but this one's easy. Once you select the tool, just like a lot of other things, you're going to click once to start it, click again to end it. So I'm going to click once to start drawing it from the center, and then click a second time to place the distance around it. Again, I'm not really worrying about the size of it. I'm just going to go and dimension that after the fact. So I'm going to click the dimension button. If you notice here, I could also hit D. There's a D in parentheses. That is because the D key on the keyboard would activate that dimension key. So I'm going to push D right now, and you see that button lights up. Let me do that again. So D and the button lights up. Escape will cancel it. So I'm going to hit D, button lights up. I am going to click on the outside of the circle one time to pick it, and then move my mouse away and click again to stamp the number down. And this is automatically going to dimension the diameter of that circle. And if we look here in this drawing, I'm going to zoom in. All right, I have given you the diameter of the circle right here. That's what this sort of circle with a slash through it means. It means the distance across a circle. So we want to type 5 millimeters in there. So I'm going to go 5, enter. Okay, it shrinks down a bit. Now we also have to locate this circle. And what I'm seeing is that from the edge, this is sort of like the corner if it was still there, if it wasn't chopped off. That's what this little plus sign means. It's 5 in from the right side and 5 down from the top. So that is easy enough. So now here is where we're really going to have to start using the fact that we're clicking 2 points instead of a line to dimension things. My dimension tool is already on. I see that it's a dark blue. So I'm going to click one time on my line and then a second time on the center of the circle. So that was 2 clicks. Then a third time to stamp down that dimension right there. And this distance was 5. And then I am going to draw, I just changed my view a little bit so I could see better. I'm going to click once on the top, once on the center. That's a second click. And then I'm going to move this out and click one more time to stamp this down. 5. And what's interesting is our circle has now turned black. What that means is that that circle is fully constrained. It can't go anywhere. it should always be your goal to get every sketch to turn completely black. If I delete that dimension by clicking it and by right-clicking on it, by highlighting it and hitting the delete key on my keyboard, we see this turns blue again. And if I try to drag it, watch this, it slides up and down, but it doesn't slide left and right. That's because we can't change the size of it. We already said Onshape, this is how big it is. And we also can't move it side to side because I locked it in at 5 millimeters from the right side here. But we can move it up and down because I haven't locked that in until I add this dimension. So let me add that back. 1 click, 2 clicks, bam, 5. Now it turns black and we can't move it anymore. I just get a selection window when I try to move it. So let me reset this. So now we have the outline of our hole there. I'm going to click the check mark. And we want to use the extrude tool yet again. But now we are going to use it in remove mode. That is what this means right here when I say sketch and extrude, and then in parentheses I say remove. I'm going to click on the remove tab here, and that just changes things a little bit. It still wants me to pick a sketch region. So this time our sketch region is not a rectangle, it is a circle. I'm going to hover around until it lights up right there, until it's the only thing lit up. This would be too much. So I'm going to move my mouse inside it, click, and that is going through there. But we want to make absolutely sure it goes all the way through. It pretty much is, but I'm going to change the end type to through all. And click the check mark. Bam, now we have a nice hole in our name tag. So we are getting closer to it looking like a real name tag. So let me see what's next here. So the next step is to sketch and extrude text. So just like everything else in Onshape, we are going to sketch and extrude, sketch and extrude, sketch and extrude. Almost everything starts with a sketch, and then you do something to it. You either extrude it or you add one of these other features that we'll talk about later. So I click the sketch button. I'm going to pick the front face again. So I'm going to click on that when it lights up. And now I'm going to add some text. We have a text button here, so I'm going to pick that. What this lets you do is it lets you draw a box, but then we have to dimension the box. So for now, I'm just going to draw a box, just like all the other times. And I'm going to type my name. You could type your name. You could type anything you want. Let's make it all, let's make it fun. Oh, no, we'll just do all capitals. That's good. You do have some options for fonts here. There really aren't a lot of them. I do apologize about that. That's not really anything that I can control. This is just what comes with Onshape. So, pick the one that you think looks good to you. And I think these Nodo ones don't work too well. So the stencil one works well if things are going all the way through, if you're cutting all the way through, because there's little marks that hold things in place. But let's just go with Open Sans, and I'm going to make it bold. When I click the check mark, it will show me the text. Right now, I can't see the text because I haven't clicked the check mark yet. So I click the check mark. So there's my text. It is massive. It is way too big. But what we can do is we can change the height of it. How can we do that? With a dimension. So I'm going to activate my dimension tool again. Oop, that's not it. I always almost click that one next to it. I'm going to pick the top and bottom of this, and I'm going to click right there to stamp that down. So let's make this a height of, I think, 10. Yep, that's what I got here. From the top to the bottom of the text is 10. So we'll go like that, 10. And now it is running off the side here. So what I need to do is I need to make it a bit smaller. So I can edit the text by turning off my dimension tool, right-clicking on the text and saying edit text. What if we do this just in lowercase? Whoops. Let's see, check mark. All right, a little smaller. We drag the side of this. Nope, that moves everything. 2. Oh, let's try this again. Edit text. So it looks like if I make it that tall, it doesn't fit on here. So I need to make this shorter, and watch, it's going to make my text a little smaller. So let's try 7. There we go. I could probably go one size bigger. So I'm editing this dimension by double clicking on it. So that's a double tap or a double click. Let's try 8. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That fits pretty well. And now I need to actually locate this so it's not sliding all over the place anymore. So I could kind of eyeball it and drag it, but we want to set dimensions, so it's good practice. Remember I said we want to get everything to turn black. So I'm going to click on this line and this line. Brings that up there. And it looks like, it's pretty close to 2 millimeters, but I think if I increase it, it's going to bump into the hole. So let's make it 1.5. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And let's set the distance from the top to the side. Let's make that a nice even 7. All right, and now all of my text turns black because it can't move anymore. So this is now locked in place, and we can't change the size of it. And watch this. If I turn off my dimension tool and try to drag it, it ain't going nowhere. So that is how you can lock something in place, is with all those different dimensions. So I'm going to accept my sketch, and then I'm going to extrude it yet again. So I'm going to click extrude, and I'm going to hover around. It looks like when the dotted line, I believe, lights up. Yep, that is when you're getting that whole chunk of text there. And now that is a little too far that's sticking out. So you got a couple options here. One is you could make this pop out maybe a millimeter or so, and that's going to give you some raised bumps, kind of like this right here. This, it do be hitting diff dough. These are sticking up out of there. Or we could do like this fellow did. I think this was Charles. It was someone named Charles from a couple years ago, where it's going down inside. So the difference there would be as simple as changing this from add to remove. Watch, if I flip this to remove, bam, now it is cutting through. And you do want to make sure it's not going all the way through, so you don't want to cut it in further than about 2 millimeters, or it would come out the backside since we made it 3 millimeters tall. But this will allow you to have an indented or inset a letter there on your name tag, and it's sort of like it's engraved. So that is how that's going to go. If I were to make it go all the way through, let me just show you what happens. If we did through all, what's going to happen here is the centers of these O's and the G are all going to fall out, and that's going to be no good. If instead we used the sketch, let me edit that. I'm editing this sketch. Yeah, there we go. Let's edit that text there for a second. If we used the sketch font, watch this. Or not sketch, the stencil font. Where is it? Alerta stencil. I click the check mark. Now, what's neat is that all those parts actually stay attached. Notice how the centers of the O's are there. So you might use this if you're creating a shape other than text, that you don't want to go through, or you don't want the pieces to fall out. You can connect them with little connectors like that on your own by creating your own little sketches and making your own rectangles. So lots of options there, but that's just a little digression from the rest of this, because we're so close now. The last step is to fillet the corners. All right, so the fillet tool is going to be new. We won't have seen this before. Oh, look at that. My D is escaping into the hole, but that's okay. So the fillet tool is right over here. It's in the second little panel of tools. If you hover over it, you'll see fillet. It's got a rounded edge, or of course you can type it if you can't find. You can type it in the search box here. So I'm going to click that to turn that on. And now it's saying, hey, we need some entities to fillet. Okay, so the entities are really literally anything in Onshape. A line, a surface, a point, a face, an object is all an entity. But the type of entities that the fillet tool wants is the fillet tool wants faces or edges. So watch this. If I click this edge, I hover just until this single line is highlighted and I click it, it is going to show me what it would look like, and it's going to round that edge. Right? If I click this, it's going to round that edge. And then I'm going to need to rotate this. Remember, to rotate, that's a right click and drag. So on a Chromebook, that's 2-finger click and drag. I'm going to rotate it so I can see the bottom. I'm going to pick that edge and that edge, and those will be all the edges I want. I actually could pick other edges if I want to, but they would probably cause an error because of the size of my fillet there, so I'm not going to do it for you guys because I don't want to confuse you. But that, we can click the green check mark on. Just rounded those edges out real nice. And actually, if you saw while we were editing that, it still shows the little corners, and that's like those plus signs over here. That's what those are, is kind of like the leftover corners that would be there. That's what we clicked on to round out those edges. So, and that gives us our name tag here. There will be a separate video on how to submit these in case people are done. So hope this helps. Hope this helps some people who might not catch it the first time. And as before, I will try to put timestamps in the description. If you click the YouTube button, if you're viewing this out of Google Classroom, take you to YouTube. You could click on the points in this where you are struggling, so you can see those different parts. And that's all for now, folks.